What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to start tearing apart this car so that we can get those turbo manifolds put on there and start installing this turbo kit. I'm thinking I'm going to have to drop the engine down in the engine bay just a little bit so we can get those top bolts on this passenger side, because I don't think from underneath I'm going to be able to get to those top bolts for those long tubes. So we're probably going to remove this front bumper and get the front wheels pulled off, get the intake pulled out of there, put that plate on there, and then use this engine hoist so that we can lower that engine down a little bit. And then on the driver's side, we also are going to run into an issue with the steering rack. The steering drive shaft for the rack and pinion goes right through the long tubes. So we might have to drop the K-member down so that we can get enough clearance to pull those out of there. But let's get to it, guys. All right, guys, so we were able to get the engine dropped down, the suspension removed, and the long tubes pulled off, and the turbo manifolds put on. As you can see right there, that's the passenger side. It comes through the K-member. We sat the Boss 202 intake manifold back on there just to kind of get a look. It will not clear the hood, but I already knew that was going to happen. But it looks really, really good. And then this is the driver's side. All right, guys, so we got the Boss 202 intake manifold put here up on the bench. We're gonna get these injectors installed and throw on the new fuel rails. I got FIC 1000 injectors, fuel injector clinic. I've heard good stuff about them. They give you all of the data for all of your injectors, tell you what kind of horsepower you should be able to run if you're running different fuel pressures, and if you're running turbo, E85, so on and so forth. But definitely really cool looking injectors, and I've heard good stuff about them, so hopefully they should be more than enough for what we need. I didn't want to cheap out on the injectors, but this is what's going to be going on there, guys. This is the paper that I was talking about, guys. Everything that they are supported tells you the base fuel pressure, so at 43 psi for running a turbo on just regular pump gas. 979 is the max it'll run, and if we turn it all the way up to 83, 1352. Now obviously if you're on E85, 1040 is going to be your max at 83 psi, and that's just because it takes a little bit more fuel to run E85. And then it has all of the data, all the flow charts of it. So pretty cool. They also offer on their website all the fuel maps and everything you need for all of your tuning software. They even have setups for Holley specific and Ford specific ECUs. So definitely a cool company, guys. Check them out. And then these are the fuel rails, guys. High flow fuel rails that are kind of customizable to the setup that you're running. You can run sensors at the end of them. They have block off plates if you're not, like a plug for the end of the rail if you're not running anything specific on each end. They have different connection styles. And then over here we got the crossover from fuel rails, and then a connector for your stock style fuel line right here. But yep. All right, guys, so we got the merge pipe put on here, and the turbo sat down up there. The merge pipe fit pretty good. It was a little bit of a pain to get because there's a extra little pipe that you put on right here that connects your turbo manifold to the merge pipe, and it can be adjusted. So it's kind of a pain to get it adjusted perfectly to be able to line up that other side to the other turbo manifold. But we did end up getting it on there. It's pretty tight here to the engine, but not too bad. I am gonna pull it back off to do header wrap on it so that we keep some of this heat out of the engine bay. And it does get kind of close to the belt right there. And then the wastegate is gonna be really, really close to this. But just to protect the belt and protect everything under here, keep some more heat out of the engine bay, we're gonna pull it back off and do some header wrap on it, which sucks because it does look really, really good. And it'd be nice to keep it all out in the open, but not worth the performance loss. We also were able to get the intercooler mounted up. It just mounts up with two brackets underneath, and they kind of follow the angle of the bottom of your radiator support, and then connect to it there. It does kind of sag out a little bit at the top, but it can be pulled back in. We're gonna get some, I'm already having some brackets made to go from here to here so that we can suck this thing back a little bit. But I can already tell that this factory crash bar isn't gonna work. So I ended up ordering a tubular crash bar. So that should be in sometime this week. We'll get that on there once we get those in. And then we'll get those brackets put on to suck this thing back. But other than that, it looks pretty good up there. And then here's the turbo mounted in here. I've only got 2 bolts in it right now, and this isn't its final position. I need to pull it back out and reclock it to the exhaust housing, turn it basically so that the outlet is facing downwards. They pretty much just send you the turbo clocked in this position because it comes in multiple different setups. So you just clock it however you need it for your specific setup. So we need to do that still. And then we got the fuel system all hooked back up in here and the Wastegate 2 mounted fully. Pretty much used the adapter for a normal size quick connect fitting basically for what came with the Lethal Performance fuel system. So I could hook up the regular fuel line up to that. And then we're running upgraded fuel rails, high flow fuel rails, and then you can kind of see the injector down in there. I'll include a picture right here of the fuel injectors with the new rails all installed. And then the crossover pipe for the new injectors is right there, or for the new fuel rails. And then we got the map sensor wire hanging out here now, so we can get the new map sensor put on there. But yeah, we need to get this turbo pulled back off, get it reclocked, and then pull that Y pipe off and recover it in header wrap, get the turbo mounted back on, and then we can start doing some of the cold side piping. I'm gonna end up probably modifying this upper radiator hose. I think if I cut it somewhere in here, basically pull this over, and then because it gets a little close right here, I'm gonna end up cutting it here and then reattaching it up there. So I'm hoping it kind of follows over to there, gets out of the way of this, and then also stays a little bit lower because right now it's a little too high with the alternator. It's kind of holding it up here because we need the cold side piping to come through up to the throttle body. This isn't an issue if you're running a factory alternator in a factory position, which is down there, but because we're running it up here, we're gonna have to try and improvise a little bit, guys. So hopefully all that works out. I'll let you know. And we are gonna be using the lower radiator hose that comes in the kit. It's actually a metal one. This one, which I was using before, worked fine, but it's gonna be resting on the Y pipe or the merge pipe, whatever you want to call it, and pretty much it's just going to burn a hole in it, so definitely can't use that one. We're going to have to use the one that came in the kit, which is fine because that should be the normal setup. But for the upper radiator hose, the one that comes in the kit isn't going to work because it comes pretty much right through the area where my alternator sits. Now I could if I wanted to, but it would be kind of a waste in a way. I could put a manual rack on the car, go switch over to manual brakes, and then remove the power steering pump, move the alternator down there, and then just sell the alternator bracket and the power steering bracket. But that's not really what I want to do at the moment. I think eventually I am going to get rid of the power steering system and either go with manual power steering or switch over to the Volvo electronic power steering. Which is a swap that some guys do on these because there is a lot of lines and stuff. It's kind of a mess in here. So I want to clean that up eventually, but for now, just to get this thing going, guys, I'm not going to worry about that too much. And then our other issue, as you can see right here, our feed line from our reservoir is coming right here where the exhaust is. And I can't pull it out of the way enough without it pinching. So I ended up ordering a adapter that connects to your water pump inlet for AN style fittings. So then we'll do a branch, basically a T off of this, so that we can do a 90 off of this and then come through this way. And then I bought a 90-degree AN fitting for this. So we'll just pull this plastic fitting off of here and then switch it over to an AN fitting. So this will be all AN style fittings all through there. I'm hoping it works. I haven't seen anything online of people talking about it, so I'm kind of assuming that I'm the first one to figure this out and show everybody else, but maybe somebody else knows of another way. We're gonna see if it works. Hopefully it does. I'll let you guys know if it does, but let's get into removing this Y pipe and getting it all wrapped. Also, for anybody wondering, we do clear the radiator. Not a whole lot of room right there, but it did clear. I do have an upgraded 3-row radiator. So it's a lot thicker than the stock one. If you have the stock style one, you'd have plenty of room here. But I didn't have enough room to clear the factory fan shroud. So I ended up having to order an aftermarket one. It's a lower profile one, so I think it'll be fine. It's a single fan right in the center. But I think it should fit pretty well. The only thing I'm worried about is this corner right here. But if it doesn't, for whatever reason, fit, I'm just gonna end up clearancing the shroud right around the turbo right here. So there'll just be a little bit of a hole right here, but the whole rest of it should be shrouded and with the big fan right there. Excuse me. So shouldn't be too big of a deal. I'm hoping it all works out. I'll let you guys know once I get it in. But yeah. All right, guys, so next we're gonna get this coolant line right here removed. I've already emptied the entire system and got the upper radiator hose removed. So we're gonna get this one removed, hopefully not make a big mess. That's pretty empty. I'm hoping there's not too much caught in this line still. Once we get that removed, I think we're gonna go into installing the wastegate and then maybe start looking into some of this cold side piping. We'll see if we get into that into this video or if we'll wait till the next one, but that's gonna be next. All right, guys, so we got the wastegate installed. Looks pretty good. They don't give you instructions for this kit, so I kind of routed it the way I thought it should be routed. I just exited it at the bottom of the car. Kind of keeps it below everything, doesn't throw exhaust gases on any part of the car. But it looks pretty good. It's very tight right in there. Kind of like sits up into the crank pulley, but it doesn't touch in any way, shape, or form. About fingers width clearance all the way around it, so should be fine there. I got so it's kind of customizable with different ports. There's a port here, there. There's 2 more right there, and then there's another port at the top. I think I'm gonna get another, let me move this. I think I'm gonna get another one of those blockers or plugs and put it in this one and then just run it normal, just straight boost pressure to it. Basically it'll be whatever spring pressure is, and then probably this winter, once I take it down for the winter, I'll just install a boost controller and then end up plumbing the rest of it to put another one of these here and do a full boost controller so that we can just run it all with the Holly instead of having to come out here and put different springs in it. Right now it's got the 10 PSI spring in it. I might put it down to the lowest boost pressure setting just for data logging purposes. But for right now, we'll just leave it the way it is until we get it to where we're gonna start it, and then I'll change out that spring. But yeah, guys, that's all installed. All right, guys, so we were able to get everything pretty well mocked up for the cold side piping. Right there, coming off the intercooler. Right there's where the blow-off valve is gonna be. Comes up through where the stock cold air intake would be for the Mustangs, the 99-04s, or I guess really any SN95. Comes up through and then wraps back to there. I think because it doesn't fit quite perfectly here, as you can see, this clamp's kind of curved, and that's because this pipe comes at a little bit of a harder angle than what this is. So I think I'm gonna try and find either a longer one of these and then just cut it at that angle so that it looks a little bit better and has a little bit more bite force on it. Or I'll try and find one with like a 45-degree angle. But I'm gonna end up fixing this up a little bit better. I'm just kind of like mocking all this stuff up for now, guys. Same with this side. I haven't put the clamps on this, but that comes up and around. It goes up to the turbo. It's not attached to the turbo right there. I think I'm gonna end up having to use a longer coupler right there, because some of these lines and stuff through here doesn't allow that to come up quite high enough. I think I can make it work, but there wouldn't be very much clamping force on either side of that boot. So I'm just gonna end up getting a longer one to go through there. But that pretty much lines up how it needs to. But yeah, guys, everything looks pretty good. Again, nothing here is gonna be set in stone. I still need to do some final adjustments with stuff just like that, and then the turbo one down there. But we don't have a lot of room here to make this work and come around to that connector right here for the upper radiator hose. And then also there's not a ton of room right there for my degas bottle, or the radiator overflow, whatever you want to call it. And I'm gonna need to shift it a little bit back farther, but it should work just fine over there still. Right here's where the MAF sensor goes. The old one was over here, so I'm gonna end up having to reroute this all the way around to this side. But I'm really happy with that being right there, because when the car was Pro Charged before, when it had the 4.6 still in it, the MAF sensor was right in this area right here. And anytime, because somebody had pieced together the cold side of the intercooler system, they'd piece it together so that charge pipe, I think it was up in there, would pop all the time, and then the car wouldn't get any MAF sensor readings and would just die on me. So now I know if I pop any one of the couplers in this whole system, as long as it's not this one, the car should stay running and be just fine. So I definitely like the positioning of that. But everything looks really good, guys. We also got the suspension all bolted back up in here. And it looks pretty good. Side note, you guys can't run a sway bar with this kit because the merge pipe pretty much runs in the exact area that the sway bar would be. So if you guys are gonna end up buying this kit, just know you can't run a front sway bar. So if you're trying to do any sort of road course or track racing, whatever it may be, just keep that in mind before you buy one of these kits. I'm sure there'd probably be a way to make one work, but it wouldn't be super easy. But this car is pretty much just gonna be a straight line runner, so it doesn't really matter too much to me. And a quick little overview of the whole system, how I feel about it so far, guys. I would say it's a pretty good kit. Some of the downsides I would say is that it doesn't come with any instructions, which is kind of it kind of sucks, honestly. I mean, I'm smart enough to figure everything out, and I'm sure most of you guys are smart enough to figure out all the stuff, but there is a lot of pieces to the kit, and you kind of have to spend a lot of time trying to figure out where every little piece goes, instead of, you know, just throwing the kit together. Because, you know, I don't know exactly what was going through the minds of the engineers whenever they put it together. And I also don't know, you know, specifically application differences and such, because I'm running mine a little bit different than maybe what they were running theirs. But I don't even know what the differences are, because they don't have any sort of instructions or pictures or anything like that. So I'm kind of just running blind, but I feel like it's been going good so far. The hot side was really, really good so far. I thought it lined up perfectly. No complaints on the hot side. I thought all the welds looked really, really good. Every good quality tubing, everything was good. The cold side was a little bit different for me. I don't think it was it was bad, but it could have lined up a little bit better, and it would have been a little bit nicer if they had, like I said, some instructions to put it all together. I got it all lined up for the most part, but it's not perfect still. So I still have some questions that I'm gonna have to figure out on my own for the cooling system and so on and so forth. But we're gonna have this thing going here soon, probably in the next couple video, guys. So if you guys wanna see this thing get going, see it hit the dyno, see what kind of power it makes, how it drives, if I like it overall, and if you're interested in the kit, maybe you wanna know that stuff, please hit that subscribe button, guys. Hit the like button if you're liking the content. I'm not sure if we're gonna get this thing on the dyno quite this year, because we're coming up towards the end of the season and a lot of the dynos are booked out towards the end. And I'm not honestly even sure which guy I'm gonna use for the dyno tune yet. I already got a guy lined up to tune it for just the first startup tune and maybe do some data logs. But as far as dyno tuning goes, I don't really have a person lined up for, you know, the Holly system and getting this thing squared away, especially a person that I trust. The guy that I used the last time, he didn't really do a great job. The car was okay for the most part, but I feel like he could have spent some more time getting the drivability of the car perfect. He kind of just left me on my own after the car was done, and it didn't really drive that great. So I'm really going to be picky about who I pick. We're coming to the end of the season, so I might not be able to get this thing on the dyno this year. If not, it'll be first spring, but there will be a lot of content to come with it, guys, so please stick along. But that's going to end out this video, guys. I will catch you in the next one.